Hello, Tim, international best-selling author. Delighted to be
Hi,
having a second chat with you, Steve Evans, this time.
hi.
Hi, Tim. Good to meet you. And you're in Nottingham, I believe. So how's life in Nottingham tonight? What's the weather like there? Probably similar to his here. And
It's
are you
rubbish.
currently in your...
Rubbish.
Sorry, are you currently in your garden cabin at the bottom of your garden?
I
By any
am.
chance?
I'm in the cabin, and yeah, it's my little sort of working place down the end of the garden. It's pitch black outside, and raining, so it's pretty horrible. But in here, it's okay.
Yeah, it's pretty much a similar here, actually. It's a bit drizzly outside, and it's really pitch black with the clocks going back last night, and one thing and another. But hey ho, that's life. We get on with it. But yeah, to be fair, it doesn't look like a cabin you sat in there. You've obviously got it well
Yeah, I mean,
decorated, should we say?
there's a lot. Yeah, there's a lot of books, loads and loads of books, and yeah, it's actually a bit more space than I need, to be honest, because we're probably going to be moving next year, and then my wife says you should get another cabin in the next house, but it'll probably be a bit smaller than this one. So, but yeah, there's all the books behind me, and that's kind of I've actually got rid of quite a few as well, given to the charity shop. So I'm trying to sort of keep a lid on a little bit of how many I've got, because it was getting a bit out of hand.
Yeah,
great library, looks like.
Where you're coming from.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So obviously reading is one of your hobbies, Tim. Well, besides that, do you enjoy, I've read that you enjoy binging box sets. It must be brilliant to watch your own characters coming alive on Netflix.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy, really, to see them, on the screen. Obviously, that both the ones that have been made so far were made for Channel 5 initially, and then they've kind of migrated to, or been acquired by Netflix, sort of subsequent to that. But yeah, it's very weird to see them sort of up on the, because obviously I always add them to my list, and so they always appear when I sort of scrolling for other stuff. And and the first time when The Holiday came out last year, my son was actually the one who first said, have you seen this? And he sent me a screenshot, and it was like trending in the top 10 or something, The Holiday. And so that's a sort of, that's quite a cool kind of moment to see.
Yeah, I've been watching The Catch over the past couple of nights. Excellent. I guessed, I'm not going to, no spoilers, but I sort of guessed who might be the baddie in that pretty early.
Okay. Yeah, but Jason Watkins is brilliant in that role. He's sort of physically quite different to how I wrote the character in the book, but yeah, he's so versatile. He's such a brilliant actor. I think he does a really good job, and the other actors, the other cast as well, are brilliant.
Yeah. I love the house as well. Yeah. It looks at me to be, I don't know what fancy living there. It was so close to the beach. I wouldn't want, strangers swimming ashore and coming into my lovely big giant beach house.
Yeah, I didn't actually go to that part of that set. It's not set; it's obviously a house. But we had one day on set last August, and we were at the harbour where they were doing a load of filming. So that was really interesting to see the kind of the process of it, and the the speed with which they kind of went from one scene to the next, and and all the people. There's dozens and dozens and dozens of people are kind of all behind the scenes that you obviously don't see when you're watching it, but there's so many in the crew, and seeing all of them is quite an eye opener.
Massive international sellers in 22 countries. Do you work with translators in different countries to make sure they get it right, or is this handled by your publisher?
Yeah, it's handled by my agency. My agent, there's someone there who does specifically sort of foreign rights deals, and to a certain extent, you kind of you sort of leave it to them. The publisher over there will acquire the book, and then they'll do all the translation stuff. So, and I can speak a little bit of German, but not really, and maybe really pidgin French. But I wouldn't know enough to know, how close the translations are. I just kind of, you just sort of they have it on trust, and obviously they want to make the story as close as they can to the UK version, I think. But I mean, weirdly, the one where there was a lot of there was a whole kind of new version, which is for the US market. So the first 3 books were published in America, and for them, they were my publisher there wanted to sort of so with the holiday, they wanted it a little bit streamlined, a little bit shorter. Some of the strands kind of like simplified and taken out. So that was kind of a bit odd because the US version is called The Vacation, but the US version is sort of slightly different to the British one. So and they did the same with the other two books as well. So
can I mention all of your novels? They've all been standalone so far, and especially with having the television series based on them. Have you ever plans on revisiting any of them, making them into a series, a follow-up, or they're all purely standalone?
I mean, I think they all kind of sort of come into my head as standalones when I'm writing them initially and thinking about them. But certainly with some of the TV, a couple of the books that have been optioned for TV that haven't been made, they will say they might say to you, if we make this and it does really well, what would be the next sort of stage of it? What might happen next? And I haven't actually got to that sort of point with any of those situations yet. But they do sort of ask that question, because it's kind of like, if they want to, how would you continue the story, and how would you what sort of strands would you pull out? So I mean, I haven't done a series, a sort of deliberate series yet, but okay. I do. It is kind of on my, I guess it's sort of maybe on my bucket list as something that I would quite like to do in the future. I don't know when, but yeah, it's quite appealing, because some of the series I love, I've read tons and tons of them around by Michael Connolly and obviously Lee Child and people like that, and you see these series and you think I think I'd like to give it a go one day. I don't know when, but.
So just about every writer we chat to, one of their biggest aspirations is to have something adapted to, screen or TV or whatever. Obviously, you've got that. But besides the source material, how much involvement do you have with the production company, the screenplay, the characters, and, the storyline, basically? Is it pretty much as you want it, or do they adapt it to suit TV their way, if you like?
Yeah, I mean, I obviously when the first one was made, so The Holiday was filmed in 2021, and so the sort of a long process before that of kind of the script being written and stuff. But I was pretty much kind of at arm's length really from all of it. So I talked to the scriptwriter, and he kind of showed me the scripts as he was writing them, and I gave some feedback on those. And yeah, but then in terms of, because I think sometimes you see shows or I read about shows that other people's books have been made, and it seems a bit, I think, maybe different for everybody. I think sometimes you'll have the author coming in as sort of an executive producer, or they'll be really, really close to it. And there's a film I saw recently, is it The Pilgrimage of Harold Fry, or The Unlikely, where the guy walks sort of across the length of the country to find his old friend, and the woman who wrote that book wrote the screenplay for the film as well. So she was really, really right in the middle of that process. So I think it's probably different for everybody, but for me, my experience being sort of quite kind of a little bit at one or two removes from the process, and I think things that work on the page won't necessarily work on the screen, and vice versa. So I told myself quite early on that it's probably going to be, there'll be some differences, and that doesn't change the fact that this book is mine, and that's my work, and the TV show is going to be, it will be different. And I think so, because some of the people were quite surprised by the changes in the catch, for example, on the TV, but which I get, and I understand that. But like I say, I think that sometimes the medium of TV has different demands, and so you have to sort of take a bit of a step back, I suppose, and I tried to do that with both of them so far. So yeah, the short answer is I didn't have loads of involvement, but I didn't even with The Holiday, didn't even go to the set for a day of filming, because it was done during one of the lockdowns in 2021. So in Malta, and they were like, you can come to the set if you want, but you'll have to quarantine 14 days when you get here. So I thought, okay, I'm not going to do that. So yeah.
You didn't fancy doing a cameo sneak-on role like you see Lee Child in the Reacher films?
I did in the with the catch. So when,
Yeah.
as I went to the set last August.
Yeah.
We were
you
just there.
on
Well, no, because we were just sort of there and chatting to people, and my wife was there. We were just sort of hanging out and talking to the producers and stuff. And then about halfway through the morning, the director of photography just says, "Tim, right, come over here. When I say you stand here and walk towards with the rest of these people." So I'm sort of in the back of this shot when they're discovering a body, and he did it twice, and I was kind of, it was literally that's how much notice I had as sort of as being in this thing.
Yeah.
And then 2 takes, and then they moved on to the next thing. And then when it came to watching that episode, it was cut. That's it. That's it.
So Were you disappointed? You must have been disappointed with that.
Well, yeah, I said to my mum, this is the one I might be in. I didn't see you, and I was like, no, we rewound it about 5 times trying to just check in. It was chopped out. I mean, I think I looked probably a bit out of place because I was like in normal, street clothes, and all these guys and the rest of the people in the shop were all kind of like, fishermen, effectively, on this harbour and kind of with all the gear. So I think it was a nice idea. Maybe next time, but
okay.
Didn't quite work out.
Yeah. Just changing their subject slightly. Your latest novel, The Dream Home, it's due to be published February next year. I think it's available for pre-order now. Can you give us a teaser of this? Tell us what's it about. Another thriller?
Yeah, it's another thriller, another standalone. It's about a family that move into a house, a big house in the middle of Nottingham. And as the title suggests, it's kind of their sort of dream home. They've got 3 kids, and they've finally got to have a bedroom for each of the kids and all these things. And there's lots and lots of. It's a Victorian house, so there's quite a lot of history with it as well. And on the first day, the dad goes upstairs and he's clearing all this kind of junk out of one of the rooms that's been left behind by the previous owners, and he pulls down some fitted wardrobes and finds a hidden door there. And when he finds a way of opening the door, he goes into this little room, and in the room there's some furniture, and it's thick with dust, and no one's been there for years and years and years. You can tell, but he finds some things in there and becomes sort of fascinated and trying to reunite them with their original owners, and then kind of mayhem ensues from that point. So it's all about sort of secrets that are kind of probably best left buried, and what happens when you kind of stir up the past that perhaps should have been left undisturbed. So it's coming in February 29th next year, and I'm just sort of was working this afternoon actually on the second edit of the book. So it's getting close to being ready.
Sounds great.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it? Yeah. Just going back, talking before about screenwriters and authors, we talked to a few, and there's definite difference between being an author and a script writer. There's definitely a different, there's a line down the middle where it's not quite. Some authors we speak to will say, well, I can't understand why my book won't make it as a screenplay, but it is a different thing altogether. It's not quite the same, and people don't understand that sometimes.
I think people say, well, would you write your own? And I said, and again, that's something else I'd quite like to do, but I think it is the discipline of screenwriting is quite a different animal to to the book, and even in something really as basic as like how much you write, because each if you have four 1-hour episodes, they're only going to be 50 minutes probably with adverts and stuff. So that's like 45, 50 pages, really, widely spaced. There's hardly anything in terms of if you're used to what I'm used to doing, which is writing 100,000 word, novel and having loads of words to play with. Screenwriting is got to be so incredibly tight, and even that on its own, I think, is quite a skill to learn. So, but yeah, I think they're quite different animals, and I would like to get into that at some point, because I think it would be interesting. But I think the other thing that I've heard is about the difference between books and script writing is that obviously with a book for quite a long period at the beginning, you're kind of doing it on your own, and you're sort of literally living inside your own head. Whereas with the script, there's sort of always 25 people who want to, feed back and feed in and give their ideas, and producers and all kinds of different people involved in the process. So I think it's much more. There's much more of that, I think, in TV. And so, if you can deal with that, then I think that's fine. But I think it's probably a bit of a culture shock if you're used to, like me, sitting in my little cabin here and tapping away on my own. But yeah, it's. I'd like to get into it at some point.
Yeah. So on the back of that, then, is there more plans for any of your novels to be screen adaptations?
There are. So there've been 7 published so far, of which two have been made. For TV, there's 3 others that are kind of that have been optioned, and that have kind of got interest in that regard. So it's really hard to tell once that happens, whether it's ever going to actually make it, because I think obviously lots of books get optioned and not many kind of pass all the sort of hurdles you need to pass to get to the screen. But so yeah, there's Trust Me and 29 Seconds and The Mother have all been at the moment are all optioned by companies looking to kind of take them forward. So it's very very exciting to sort of see, because 29 Seconds came out in 5 years ago, and so you sort of think, well, wow, this book might kind of have another kind of a bit of another sort of lease of life, with a possible adaptation. So I'm very very excited to see what happens with them.
Yeah, we've also had some screenwriters who've paid authors to buy their book for a screen, for a play, but not actually used it as such, but may do in the future, and bought the rights, if you like. I mean, that must happen quite a lot with authors, I would think. But
yeah, and you get told, like I said, most of these things, because there's so many different bits that have got to align in terms of like funding and director, writer, channel, all these things have got to click, kind of thing, for it to actually happen, and it's quite hard to make all those all the stars align. So yeah, a lot of these books, and a lot of the stuff you'll see on Netflix and Prime and everywhere else, is a lot of it has originated as in fiction, in books, in with an author. So, but yeah, it's and increasingly, I guess, there's more being made now than there was perhaps 10-20 years ago, because there's more platforms out there. But it's still it always feels like a bit of a long shot, when you get a book optioned, and you just sort of cross your fingers and hope that something comes out at the end of it, without and you can't really control that. You just have to sort of put your faith in the people and hope they make it happen.
Of course, yeah.
I've read some great news on your excellent website, tmlogan.com, that you've signed a new 3-book deal with your publisher. Have you got that drafted out in your head, these 3 new novels?
No, someone else asked me that recently, and I said no, and I think they looked a bit shocked. No, I've not. No, short answer is no. I have a document in my computer which has got lots of bits and pieces of ideas on there, and I'm always on the lookout for things. And when I've got the Dream Home kind of off my desk, which will be, well, this edit will be back with my editor this week, then I can kind of get my head clear and start to think about the next one. But I don't really have definite ideas for the next one or the next 3. So I'll start planning probably this month in December, and ideally start writing it in January. So yeah, there's maybe I guess there's not that long. November's on Wednesday, isn't it? So there's not that long between now. But, something will come up, I'm sure.
Yeah. So, and again, going back to, you're in your cabin now, and you might move house, or you are moving house. That is going to disrupt things a little, possibly.
Yeah, I mean, it's yeah, it probably will do, and I'll have to sort of figure out, because I kind of know, having done a few books already, I sort of know if I start at a particular time in the year, so mid-January, I know what I've got to do each week in terms of how much progress I need to make. So I have a sort of reasonable idea of that track kind of thing up to June, when I'll submit the first draft. But as long as you can sort of keep on top of that, and I haven't moved house since 2005, so I think I've probably forgotten a lot of the worst stuff about it, and the kind of all the packing beforehand as well. But yeah, I'll just have to try and, you know, I'll be sort of just trying to keep on track with sort of 6,000 words a week or 8,000 words a week or whatever I need to do for to get me there. But yeah, it'll definitely, I think it'll be a bit of a challenge next year. But
yeah, I was just going to say a bit of a challenge.
Yeah. Well, what I found, Tim, I've moved house loads of times. I think my mother-in-law calls us a family of gypsies. What I found the worst thing in a new house is late at night, Saturday, you head into the bathroom, is finding the light switches on the wall in the dark. You know, you're familiar where you are now, but when you're in a new place, you know, you can be touching the wall, touching the windows, falling over all over the place.
Yeah. I'm sure there'll be a lot of that when we get there. So
I mentioned a writing routine. Do you have like a set routine? You're in your writing retreat now. Do you have like a daily word count or, you know, a timetable?
Yeah, I used to try and do 1,200 words a day. So then with the last book, I sort of upped that to 1,500 a day. And towards the end, when I'm getting towards the deadline, it'll be more than that, because obviously you kind of push into the deadline. But it's somewhere between. If I can get 1,500 words in a day, then I'm pretty happy, and that's a sort of roughly about the length there or thereabouts of one chapter. So and I know that if I can do that and I do it over a sustained period, then, you know, your first draft, like I said, is once about 100,000 words. So you can get that done in however many weeks that is. I don't know, 13, 14 weeks, something like that, and with a few weeks there at the end to kind of go back over it and those things. So, and I think word count is useful in some ways, and it's just, like I say, just to keep me on it a bit and keep me on track. And I know some people don't do that, and some people write a lot more, and some people do less. I know I don't know if I mentioned this to you before, but there's a guy called Will Dean who's written lots of really, really good thrillers set in Scandinavia, and his method is he just bashes out a first draft in a month.
What?
Yeah. And
crazy.
then that was my reaction when I first heard him say it. But then he spends, I don't know, 3 or 4 months after that editing it. So he will really front load a lot of that really hard graft in terms of the writing into the first month, and after that he's sort of shaping it. So I think everybody sort of probably has a bit of a different answer on this, but I know if I can get, I mean, it's whatever it is, between 6,000 and 8,000 words a week, then I can sort of keep the momentum going. And but yes, it tends to be just only weekdays I'll work, and I'll only towards the end, but I'll work on weekends. But it's good to switch your brain off a little, you know, at least one day a week, I think, to sort of get it fresh again for the Monday morning. So, but yeah, and editing is a bit different. So editing at the moment I'm just sort of doing it really until it's done. So it's kind of, I have a really long list of comments from my editor and my agent and another reader who's coming for the second edit, with all the kind of commentary about what they think can be improved, and that's really just a case of literally just working through and rewriting and just trying to make it better and tighter, really, making where the pace is slack, you want to pick that up, and all those things. So it's kind of different to the first drafting process, but it's most of the second half of my year is doing this kind of fixing, editing, rewriting process, which is, I prefer the first draft, to be honest, because it feels a bit, you know, I enjoy that more. But yeah.
So do other writers inspire you? The likes of, you know, Lee Childs, for example. Haven't you used a promote? Hasn't he given you a review or something like that? Did I read? Have I got that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, he was right at the beginning. He was very kindly gave me a blurb for the first book, Lies, which was, you know, it's kind of as a thriller, you know, if you're a thriller writer, that's kind of like, that's sort of, can't really get, it doesn't really get much better than that. So but I was you know, lucky in that one of the reasons why I where I approached the agency that represent me now is because I drew up a list of like 12 agents I thought I'd like to be maybe I'd like to send my stuff to back in when I wasn't published, and they were, but Darley Anderson, that agency, were on the list because I was reading a Lee Child book, and I read somewhere that he was represented by them. So when I was lucky enough to get an agent at Darley Anderson, that obviously helps in terms of if there's a connection there, then that's probably why Lee Child got a copy of the book, and why there's a so having that link, the fact that we both have the same agency is probably helped to get the Lee Child endorsement. But yeah, it's sort of, it's on the website as well, and it's kind of and that's why I kind of try to sort of, when I get sent advanced copies of other people's books or debuts, I try to, in as many cases as I can, I like to try and read them and say something positive about them as well. So to sort of, keep it, pay it back a little bit, I suppose, and keep it kind of keep it rolling.
Excellent. You've got links on your website of all the major social media platforms, plus all of your books are on all the major booksellers lists. We've connected on Twitter. Have you got a favorite platform that you use for promotion? Is it Twitter?
I mean, I think I probably started out on Twitter. I think right at the beginning when the first book came out, that was the first one I, got going on. And I think I do look at it, probably more than any other one. But I think it's obviously there's been issues with Twitter in the last sort of year or so. So I think probably, I mean, I'm on Instagram and Facebook as well. I feel like Instagram tends to be, I think you do feel like obviously it's kind of more of a positive place, and it's more of a, I get more kind of interaction from people on Instagram than on Twitter, and Facebook again, it tends to be, because Facebook has got such a massive audience that it's it's a really good way to reach people. So it'll tend to be Facebook and Instagram. I'm on Threads as well, but I've kind of, I don't know, it's something, it doesn't seem to really have quite taken off yet. And I've got some of the trailers are on YouTube. So, but yeah, in terms of where I feel like I get the most sort of positive interaction with people is Facebook and Instagram. So
okay.
Finally, from me then. So somebody comes up to you, hasn't put pen to paper at all, wants to write a book, aspiring writer. What advice do you give them? Obviously don't mention screenplays, just about being an author.
I think it's, I like to try to, well, I think you need to be obviously you need to be a reader first, I think. And there's quite a lot of books you can read about the craft of writing, like the Stephen King book on writing is really good. I still read something, most of the time on different things about getting better. But I always like to try and, when I'm reading something, a book of fiction, I always try to read it as a writer. So I'm always looking at it thinking, why does this work? Why does it really grip me? Or maybe conversely, why is it not really working? What's the problem with it? So try to read as a writer, and then I also try to write with the reader in my head. So that I'm always thinking of the reader and thinking about, trying to pull them through the story and make them keep on turning pages. And always the reader should, I think the reader should always, in your head, should always be the most important person. So that would be kind of the advice that I'd give. And obviously, and it's like anything, you got to do it regularly to get better at it. And if you're a runner or whatever, you don't want to start running a marathon straight away. You're going to go and do a 1 or 2K, or you're going to do, you're just going to build up slowly. And if you do it 3-4 times a week or whatever, writing, you will get better and it will become more natural. So it's like anything, you just have to keep at it and keep practicing and try to keep learning.
Yeah, good advice. Yeah.
Excellent advice. Yeah. But on that note, Tim, our time has caught up with us. But I've enjoyed this even more than the first time. But thank you very much for spending time with us, Tim. Really appreciate it.
Well, thank you for inviting me, and I'll perhaps maybe speak to you again, next year. Who knows?
Well, I'm booking it now.
Great. Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah. Terry's got it down already.
No, I haven't written it down yet. It's in the book. You've said it.
Well, you know where I am. So
I do, certainly do. But Tim, thanks for now, mate.
No worries. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Cheers.
Brilliant. Loved it.